At first, I wanted to make a video about the advocacy of new Hunt players. I see a lot of people in the community coming in a bit apprehensive about the game. Steam forums and Reddit posts are like, is this game good? Or should I buy this game? And despite all its flaws, I know that most of us usually advise these people to buy the game, because despite Hunt's onslaught of shortcomings since the 1896 update, most of us still love playing it. We want more people to join the fray and to learn to root and toot with the best of us. The reality is that Hunt provides a gunplay experience unlike any other game, and a level of atmosphere and immersion that are unmatched. It provides the thrills and suspense of an extraction shooter without constantly permanently losing gear that needs to be reacquired, or so unbalanced that only a wipe can set things straight again. You can compare it to whatever game you want, but the reality is that there's no direct competition out there for people who enjoy Hunt's model of gameplay. We still advise people to pick up the game, even when we're pissed off at it, because we know the core of the gameplay experience is so satisfying. However, it's hard to make everything seem like it's sunshine and roses without also exploring other things about the game that might make it off-putting. So I've decided to make this video not only to attempt to inform new people or potentially new people, but also to reflect and see what really matters to myself as a player with over 3,200 hours in the game. At a 1,000-yard glance, the state of the game seems healthy. It's still a gorgeous shooter with tons of playstyle and weapon options, and it even has a new game mode, and it undoubtedly has some of the best-looking cosmetics of any modern-day live service shooter. It has unique gameplay and a seemingly simple premise, and there's a steady outpouring of skins, content, teasers, quote-unquote, and now collabs going on. If we get a little closer, though, a lot of us know the game has less content and less balance than it did a few years ago. There are 4 maps in Hunt Showdown, yet we've only been able to play 2 of them for months now, and before that it was only 1. This saps variety from the game, not to mention all the time of day and weather conditions that we once had have now mostly been removed. But this rings true especially for those of us who know that the other maps and their variants are there but unusable, a carrot dangling in front of our heads that we know that we can't reach. There are dozens of layers of complexity to Hunt's gameplay, and only a few of them are covered in the game's tutorial. And with an event almost always going on and adding even more layers to the gameplay, but are rarely explained well inside the game unless you want to read walls of text or watch YouTube videos or read discussion threads. Given most people don't read anything anymore, Crytek's decentralized format for communicating their game mechanics leave a lot of new people confused, frustrated, or both. But before we get really into the weeds on Crytek and their communication, let's observe that yet again, from the outside, one sees tons of weapons and cool combinations to truly make Hunt a whatever works for you play experience. And while all the variety is appealing, it can also be a curse. Often when new players would ask what to run, I would tell them just to find something comfortable for them and stick to that before branching out and trying meta loadouts or meme loadouts. Unfortunately, over time, and many events, Crytek has managed to shove so much power creep into the game by giving almost every gun every ammo type, and it's become increasingly clear that if you want to compete, you basically need to go with a handful of loadouts. I used to pride myself on getting a pentakill with my old favorite, the Vetterli. Now I never use that weapon because I know there are clearly better options, despite me liking the feel of those guns less. A teacher of mine once said, "All show is no show," and it really stuck with me. If all of these weapons get all of these ammo types, then essentially none of them are special. There is value in the variety and niche of certain weapons having strengths and weaknesses. While we could debate the minutiae of every Hunt weapon compared to another in an endless conversation, the reality is that most people right now are just running Centennials with dum-dum ammo because it's cheap and super powerful, especially with the right traits. Only now, they're finally starting to walk this back by informing us of certain ammo types for certain guns will now be available scarcely through ammo scarcity via in-game ammo caches. It feels like admitting that they let it drift away, but without actually just saying, "Sorry guys, we fucked up, and we're just going to fix it outright." Not to mention that Crytek has already stated that they won't be doing anything to players' inventories, so by announcing this ahead of time, it just means that players who have tons and tons of hunt money will just load up a bunch of hunters with Dolch and Centennial Dum Dum, and they'll just be sitting in their inventory. Anyways, there are a lot of people who play this game and don't prestige and have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of hunt dollars. So we're treating the symptom and not the disease, but I digress. If you throw all these things on top of the matchmaking MMR post they just dropped recently, there's some really discouraging reasons why a new player in Hunt might not stick around at all. And that's not even counting the absolute abortion of a user interface. In my previous video, I said that it was okay that these back-to-back events were quote-unquote the new Hunt. But in reflection, I now disagree a little, because the driving force for these events has really just congealed into a ball of scope creep and FOMO. They toss in quote-unquote new and fresh game elements each event, but for a while now, those were mostly just ammo variants and weapon variants nobody asked for, being the go-to, and it's starting to feel real cheap and slapdash. With the Harvest of Ghost events this year, I liked seeing the bomb launcher and the remote dynamite and the revive shot. Well, kind of for the revive shot. I feel like it should have less ammo, but that's a topic for another video. But these things were more on the Hunt scale to me because they were kind of weird and made up of occulty stuff, and it seems like it belongs in the world instead of yet another historical reproduction of some rifle that you can only find in a museum. It was far better than just, we gave X rifle dum-dum, or we gave Y pistol high velocity ammo, and it gave me a bit of hope. However, with the last event, the charm was obviously meant to separate normal players from only the most die-hard Hunt chads out there. I consider myself a pretty die-hard player given the number of hours I have while still maintain being an employed, married, and active father, but cutting out the last week of challenges and not even doing a double event points weekend toward the end really sent the message, and that message was, lol, no charm for you, peasant. Not that I even care about charms in this game, I am a bit of a completionist, but it's very clear that since David Fifield has taken the helm as general manager, some of Hunt's priorities have shifted. All that said, I need to address the elephant in the room. Do I like Ghostface? Sure, I love Ghostface. I love horror movies. Did I want him in Hunt? Not really, but it's also not going to make me quit the game. I honestly think that Post Malone, a guy with tons of face tattoos, a metal grill in his mouth, and too much jewelry, fits right into Hunt by slapping a cowboy hat onto him far better than a guy with a dumb fucking pumpkin on his head. These types of creative choices in Hunt aren't what's lessening my enjoyment of the game. I want you guys to know. I want that to be clear. For me, it's the aforementioned obvious scope creep of the weapon roster and the stunningly dim-witted lack of prioritization for quality of life fixes in this game. I'm no programmer, but it's become painfully obvious that the version control going on over at Crytek is extremely lacking. Old bugs shift in and out of the game more frequently than Billy Story frequents a whorehouse, I'd assume. And there are just so many things that don't happen anymore, mostly like hot fixes or communication. But I digress again. I understand that due to the nature of business, licensing, and collabs, that all these content drops were pre-planned probably almost a year ago, but it would only take an ounce of transparency to admit that. If they said, hey hunters, we know the game seems in a rough state right now. Just know that these collabs were set into motion long before any of these issues happened, and we're aware of what it looks like from the outside, but rest assured that we aren't prioritizing monetization over the quality of our game. It's not a hard statement to make. I just did it on the spot, right here. Why is it so hard for Crytek to be upfront with us? Even in their increased communication lately, it seems that all of their words have a nice chocolatey layer of bullshit wrapped around them. I digress, though. I still love this game, and I will still continue to play and advocate for it until I can't. I'm not sure where that point is, but I know that we're not there yet. I also understand that many times throughout this video, I've mentioned both far and away close-up views of the game, but the real question is, how close is too close? For a lot of us, I do believe we're too close for comfort. We know these devs, CMs, managers, and artists on a first-name basis. That can be cool, but it's also a little parasocial. And I've stated previously that there are literal thousands and thousands of people just enjoying the cool, spooky cowboy game. But there is also a few thousand of us monitoring its every single move and becoming hypercritical of things like skins or cosmetic rarities, who I think are missing the forest for the trees. I'm guilty of this myself sometimes as well. The game's not perfect, it's far from it. But then again, most games also fit this description. I think that we should be thankful for Crytek, as transparent as they are. Not that they're very transparent, but it definitely beats a completely opaque dev like Blizzard or Ubisoft, EA, many more, the giants that everybody loves to hate for good reason. And it could always be worse. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it's a common phrase for a reason. What? Excuse me, what? I double clicked on Iron Eye and it bought adrenaline. Cool. I would say if you're looking to get into Hunt Showdown as of today, that it's a pretty safe bet that you're still going to have a great time. Just be prepared to deal with some jank. Prior to the 1896 update, I might have even called that jank charm. But I think before we wander back into charm territory, I'm going to need to have a functional search bar and several other buttons that actually work in a UI that is supposed to guide me through perusing hundreds of weapon options and dozens of different hunters and their traits. On a final note, the Steam rewards just popped up, and over the past many years I've voted for Hunt in the Labor of Love category, but not this year. This year, I feel that loving Hunt itself feels a bit laborious, and I really wish that the folks at Crytek would take a step back and look at the slippery slope that the game appears to be on. And that has nothing to do with a Post Malone collab or Ghostface or any of these other cosmetics. If you're new to Hunt or thinking about getting the game, I hope this video has given you some perspective that you might not have had previously. Godspeed, hunters, and maybe I'll see you out there in the bayou, or the mountains, or the murder circus, or whatever the hell comes next.